Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight on StandOut. Today's edition. It is the seventh day of November 2020, and I'm super excited to host this event. My name is Enoh Ogbevire, and I will be with you till the end of the show. The host and convener of the event, Patrick Uduma, is also here, and it's a virtual session today. And we're super excited that you're able to sit with us this evening to learn on the show. It is Standout, a program that, basically, like the name sounds, is here to ensure that the convener tells you stuff, shares experiences and life lessons with you that you can use to stand out in whatever endeavor you find yourself. So this evening, we'll be bringing him on in a bit to tell us what he has for us today. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great time. We'll take your questions, but in between, please ensure that your microphones are off. All right. Would like to see you if you can be brought to the front page. Otherwise, ensure that your microphones are on mute so that there's no interference. And also, feel free to chat us up if you want to. We can see your chats and we'll respond as the event goes on. Patrick Uduma, good evening to you. You're welcome from your side.
Thank you again, and we appreciate that you find in your busy. And thank you, everybody, every member of Standout. Thank you for those joining us for the first time. Relax, we're going to deal with issues that by the end of the day, you're going to be happy with yourself, and there's definitely going to be a lift. I don't know, for some strange reason, I've been so happy from the beginning of the day, and I believe that something like my pastor will say is about to happen. Hey, we're going to redefine a whole lot of standard and challenge status quo.
Okay. All right. So what do we have on the plate this evening?
Yeah, first and foremost, I just want to recap that every year we have certain words that help us navigate the year. And for me, this year has been such a phenomenal. We started by this year saying it's a year of rulership, a
Okay.
year of rulership, rising up to make a difference. And we could see how the year has turned out, the COVID and the NSAT, and how things have turned. Even the bag of
Yes.
rice is here, it's about 40,000 per bag now. Um, it showcased that we have the power to rule over the circumstances, that we're no longer victims of life, but we
Yeah.
are creators of life. And so this year we got power. This power helps us to tread places and experiences, committed to our principles and standard. And so we have structures that would outlast any circumstances as well. So that's what is important for we allow people to re-engineer their mind and their perspective, because that will give a whole weight of knowledge, because we're graced to build possibilities even in the pandemic, because we have detailed plan to invent solutions. So we invent solution at any point in time because we got the wisdom to be fearless, because we have divine instructions, so that we could unveil masteries, and we have the strength. And our strength is based on the fact that we do not compromise our standard. We have moral attitude, we have mental soundness, and we have good character to obtain a lot of trust as well. So it's been an amazing time when you understand that you're in rulership. You can't be a victim to life. You will consistently be on top of life. That's why we're standard people. But today I want to get it deeper into what we call standard. I know it sounds a little bit awkward, because I mean everybody will think that I know what is standard, but hey, I can tell you, not all of us live by standard. And I just wanted to say by standard, what is really standard? Is a level of quality. You talk about level, so that means you measure. Is a level of quality or or attainment, something used as a measure, norm, or a model in comparative evaluation. And so we are always said, if the result that you are getting is not in conformity and in alignment to your desired end, then you need to check the standard you're operating. Maybe it may not be your own standard. So I always like to go back into a book that I love so much, which is the Bible, to pick up some few things to buttress what I'm saying. The writer of Romans chapter 12, verse 2 say, do not conform yourself to standard of this world, but let God transform you inwardly by a complete change of mind. Then you'll be able to know the will of God, what is good and what is pleasing to him and what is perfect. The writer of Ephesians penned it down in Ephesians 4, said, I urge you then, I who am a prisoner, because I serve the Lord, live a life measure up to the standard God set when he called you. So it means when you are called, there is a particular standard that you must conform to. Otherwise, the world will give you a standard. So progressively, we will say that, understand that upward, when you have to go upward, it requires and demand a standard that is high. If you want something higher, take for instance, like the high jumpers. You realize that at any point in time, they put a level. They have to raise the standard. They keep raising the standard. They keep raising the standard. In the same way about life, if where you are is not exactly where, you know that the standard you're operating is quite lower and it will only drag you down instead of taking you up. Your current life is a direct reflection of the standard that you hold both for yourself and for others. Both for yourself and others. If you don't have established standards, you may be forced with another standard that may be below your baseline, and that will affect your behavior, that will affect your character, that will affect the attitude and the quality of life. Standard means the life that makes you comfortable to fully express yourself. Understand how important your life counts. And that's why you have to be committed to owning and living your own life and standing up for yourself, surpassing also your expectation. I give you an instance. I was raised in the mud, and I knew there was a better place than the mud. And I aspire that I'm going to build a block house. That's setting a standard. I understand now that in some kind of leadership, I need to be calm in my emotion in order to manage the multiple information. I have to raise my bar to manage my emotion and to have a mind management. That was difficult to do, but unless you raise that standard, you can't climb that stage. Life is full of choices and dreams, lessons and opportunities. As we walk our journey, our perceived experiences and projections of a realm rest inside of us. It rests inside of us. This realm is in our mind and is where our subconscious and thought and images mold our attitude and our actions. To take control of these subconscious patterns, we must lay out a foundation. There must be a certain foundation for your mind so we can project more of what we aspire to be. The foundation is where we map ourselves to our dreams, our love, and destinies. Let me break it down. I was working in a particular location. My office was in a particular location, And I realized that for some strange reason, if I continue to stay there, I won't be able to attract my client. I won't be able to attract the necessary, the expected client that I need to have to foster growth in my organization. So I started dreaming to move into another location. Yes, at that point that people say you have big eye. But hey, if I have to get to that client, they can't locate me where I was because location was important. I need to raise the bar. I didn't have all that it takes, but I believe and I set the standard. And today I'm in that location. Why? I decided to step up the standard. And now I attracted the same people. In the same vein, you can't want to play in a certain role or work in a certain multinational company. Their standard is high in terms of the requirement. You need to be able to upgrade. You need to be able to move your standard in order to interface them. If you stay in the small standard, you won't be able to connect to the higher standard. What standard are you operating with? And who set this standard? Is it your experience or experiences? Is it family? Because family can cap you. They can just put you on a standard that you know that it is lower than your expectations. Is it friends? Is it enemy? I mean, I recall a particular gentleman that they killed the father, and all he wanted to do was to revenge. He lived over 20 years just trying to revenge. All that he was thinking was to revenge the death of the father, because he felt that those people were enemies, just to eliminate them. That's the standard he set for himself. So we have different standards that were being cloned or conditioned. Or is it competition? And this is a strong point, competition. Because competition operates in a certain belief system and personality. And you may not be able to adapt to that system. So you need to consistently find out who is setting the standard, or somehow your colleagues. I recall when I was in a certain organization, everybody was getting married. How old was I? Like every other person everybody was getting married. It started putting pressure on all of us to get married. And meanwhile, we don't have what it takes. We don't have the family background they have. We don't have the necessary life. And yet we need to run into marriage. Who set that standard? That's why it's important to be able to set your own standard with your own agenda. Otherwise, like I said, the world will force in their own agenda, and they force us. And that's why most people are cloned into this rat race. Or is it the society? I mean, today people can't live their life because they feel that if you don't belong, you can't live your life. In terms of business, you have to be corrupt. You have to do some ethics. You have to go through shortcuts. You have to manipulate the system, because that's what the society demands of us. Nobody's living their life. That's why people move into government. And as they move into government, because they don't have a standard, they compromise. The system forces them. That society forcing you into a new standard. And that's actually what we have in country. I was sharing this. Recall, I don't know where some of you were raised by teachers or by nurses. As at those days, they put a standard of in terms of food. You know what to eat on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. You have table of content of what to eat. You know already. And some of those habits created some level of budgetary experience. So you know how to manage. It brings about organization. That single habit created a lot of structural power in order to, when you move in, you already know. But today, do we still have such standard? We have standard about almost everything. You recall those days in the olden days when town planners plan, they have a certain area where this side, if you don't have one-story building, you can't build here. But today we see in our city, there is no standard, no, completely no standard. You are built here, you build all manner of things. Why? Because we are losing standard. And in any country, any society that do not operate in standard. I was in the first time I ever traveled in my life was in, well, not Dubai, Abu Dhabi. And when I got into Abu Dhabi, I saw the standard of operation. I saw, you could just feel it that these guys are going somewhere. Because without standard, you can't measure. Don't forget that it's a measurement of life, and measurement means that progression. And there was so much order, and you could see building. The same thing if you go overseas now, they have a standard. If one government started a project, there will likely going to be a continuity, because why? There's a standard anybody can fit in. Most business in country Nigerian, you can't succeed after the owner died. That's the end. Why? Because there's no standard. Standard creates structure, and structure brings in system, and system brings in service. And because it is detailed, you find out that there's a standard, and anybody can fit into that mold and continue from there. It brings continuity, it brings elongation, it brings a lot of control. So it brings about boundaries. And that's why there's a continuity, because the standard. Does this standard conform to your inner aspiration or desires? Do they only bring wellness to your unique being? And today I'll be looking about 4 dimensions where we are going to create our standard. Number 1 is high personal standard. I share a story of what happened to me today. While I was preparing for this, I got a chat, and people said I don't respond, so I tried to respond. And a particular person asked me, "Oh, can I call you?" I said, "Okay, call me." Maybe I thought maybe she wanted to discuss about something. And trust me, I mean it was shameful and was disgrace of what I saw. I just cut off the video. And I said, "Hey," she asked, "Okay, this does not conform to my standard." That's what I say. So I'm not going to talk about it, and I block it instantly. Why? Because I set up a standard in my personal life that I can't go beyond this. I cannot do this. I have set up a standard, a personal standard, hey, at my life, that I will not allow, I will not be poor. It means it activated responsibility in my mind to seek and unearth the potential hidden inside of me, so that I can develop them, cultivate them, make them into commercial skills, so that I can exchange and create value, so that value will come to me. And so I won't depend on anybody to let me know that I need to cultivate my inner potential, because God has given me potential. You need to have a personal standard. If you don't have a personal standard, the world will give you standard, and that standard will be lower and put you under pressure. But if you come with your personal standard, like for instance, everybody knows, I would like to keep my promise, is a standard. I would like to treat people with respect, is a standard. I would like to treat people with dignity, is a standard. I would like to appreciate people when they have done something, is a standard. I would like to owe nobody nothing apart from love, is a standard. I would like to improve myself, is a standard. I would like to have variety of options, creating options, so that I will not go below the standard. I recall when we were going to get a house, and I have a particular standard that I was looking for. It was difficult to get it in the location I wanted, but I didn't compromise. And by grace, I was able to tap into exactly what I wanted. But the house was the same, but not in the same location. But I did not compromise that. And one of the things about standard, it will help you focus on the ideals and you pursue them. So it is important this night that you ask yourself a question: do I have a personal standard? There is nothing that you would do for me to compromise those standards, no matter where I found myself. I've been in several countries. I recall when I was asked social drinking. They wanted me to drink a certain brand of gin. I told them, sorry, I'm not, I can't do this. They said, oh no. I said, listen, I don't condemn you. Do whatever you want to do, but you see this substance, I'm not going to take it. And one of the things about personal standard, what we do to you, it will give you courage. It will give you, it could bring you good character, and people begin to trust you because you're a person of standard. Number two will be spiritual standard. I talk about spirituality, and the reason I'm talking about standard, you don't forget we have talked about patterns. Patterns create connection. Connection brings you into establishment, and when you're establishment, you get into timelessness, and timelessness position you, because now in rulership, now you need to create a standard to govern, to rule. But without standard, what are you going to measure your compliance to? So the same way about your spirituality, your level of increase is determined by your status of spirituality, because the spirit governs and sustains your standard. If you need to understand about standard, you need to find yourself about prayer life. For some of you who believe in prayer, your study life. You need to be able to set up a standard about your spiritual level. If you don't have a spiritual level, you will consistently go up today and come down tomorrow. Your prayer life up, down. Your insight up, down. Adversity will hit you, go down. It changes the dynamics. It is important to create a standard about your spiritual, because if you have to grow, you need to keep a standard. Number two is your mental standard. I don't want to get angry unnecessarily, especially external events. So I need to ask myself, why should I be angry? So now I set up my emotion where I do not react. I interact. There's a different thing being reactive, but interaction. So people operate in certain belief system, and the fact that they are not in conformity to your desired standard does not make them less or more, but how you interact with them will determine the state of your mind. I want to consistently develop my mind, interrupt my mind, question my mind. So I'm managing my emotions. I focus on my need, not the emotion. And because what happens, what you focus condition your thought pattern, and what you think condition your feeling. Your feeling determines the emotion. Emotion will be whether you're sad, dissatisfied, whether you're loving or you're hating. It comes from the attachment of your thought process, the attachment. Now, your feeling conditions your mind, and the mind determines, sends signals to your five senses. And that's what affects how you relate to action, how your character and your attitude. So it's important to have a standard. You cannot go beyond this in your mental capacity. I don't want to be frustrated. I don't want to live in complaint. So everything that comes into like a complaint, what I try to do is to interact with that and see how it affects my mind. And once I can introduce it to my conscience, then I'm aware and I monitor it. So that's why if you want to go high to high standard, you become watchful, you become observant, how you feel about situation, and question why are you feeling the way you're feeling. I don't want to hate anybody. There's no need. I don't want to sleep carrying somebody in my mind. It's not worth it. I don't want to live with unforgiveness. It dries the bone. So you need to be able to put a standard, your mental standard, that this can happen. I don't want to be in complaining mood or whining. No. So you need to be able to articulate your mind and set it up in a certain standard, and so that you keep growing. The last one is the societal standard. I walked into a shop this morning, and a gentleman just called me and said, I've watched you. You have maintained a certain position. How do you do this? I said, well, because when I get into the show, I have determined how I want to relate with people, whether at work, whether in church. You need to be able to detail. And so something happened last Saturday when we went for a wedding, and it was a Catholic church that had played a lot of standard. And so there are these gentlemen that came from the media, and they were all disturbing, and the priest was just shouting on them. And what happened is that they don't have a standard, a societal standard to look at the order, because they were just, if you have standard, the first thing you to do is to connect to standard. And you'll be observant, because you don't want, because you know why? You have set up how you want to interact with society. The first thing I do when I get into any place is to find out the governing standard there. And once you understand it, it will help you to connect with them. So to achieve your desired goal, you must be very specific and clear what you intend to achieve in all these standards, because your self-performance will be based on the standard of your personal belief and your personal principles and your personal values. So what do I want to do is to establish your preference. A lot of us don't have preference in food, on how we look, our well-being, on our thought pattern, on our relationship. You need to be able to sit down and establish your preferences. You need to train your brain to focus on what you want, on what you're aspiring. Otherwise, you'll be distracted. And now, the only way you can focus or train is when you have set up a standard. I recall those days, I was an OYS member. They would tell me this, I will say I will do. I can take assignment, 20 assignments on a day. And you think you have the capacity to do, you can't. Standard will make you to say, oh, sorry, man. Can I do this next week? Can I do this over there? It is not wrong to say no. But some of us didn't know how to say no or yes, so we want to be accepted, we want to see as a good boy. It landed us into trouble. Have a standard where you train your mind to focus on what you want and aspire. Become very vivid with detail. If you're not watchful, if you're not vivid in what you want and detail them, it's difficult to create a standard. It is not the big thing. It is about the daily effort. You have portioned it small. What am I supposed to do today? What am I supposed to do there? How can I increase over there? It has to be detailed. And put a plan over your thought. People don't have plan over their thought. Anything can come in and get over there. Your thought is your life. You have to have a standard over your feelings. How do you feel? Because feeling, in fact, 90% of our problem is in how we feel. That's why you need to have a lens towards what you want, towards your resourcefulness, what you can do and not what you cannot do. That's why the problem about discouragement is focusing on the things that are within your control. But if you focus on the things, the resources available, you realize that you can create your standard and live well with your standard. Becoming a committed person with such a conviction and courage to comply with your established standard. Some of us are not courageous enough to say no, to say, okay, I'm going to pursue this. You have to consistently rewire your mind to consciously evolve from a negative and limiting belief that inhabits you. It was difficult to grow from my house because every time they say, we don't have money. Oh, there's no money. You keep hearing this. And so some of us cannot ask for help because our parents made it difficult for us to seek help externally. Because you can't go there. It was difficult today to move out because my father will not allow you to move out. So it becomes social distance. And you realize that it's affecting you. Why? It You're not structured that way. You're a very social person, but because you were conditioned, so you need to be able to rewire to find a meaning. When you find meaning, then you'll be able to set your own standard, not the parental standard. They are good, but they may not serve your current reality. But some of us are still working on that thing. I recall when my mom told me something. He said, you know that if you just touch a woman or some kind of a woman, that she become pregnant and my house is small. They were good, but if you flow, if they condition you, what you're always thinking about marriage, you can't even have a legitimate relationship. You keep asking this person, I want to marry. Oh, come on. Think about that thing. It's coming from a non-standard life because you're operating a particular standard that is not conforming to your reality. That's why we have to rewire to reconnect to our reality by asking ourselves certain questions. And once you ask that certain question, you begin to ask yourself, what is the way forward? Always aspiring to acquire fresh insight to strengthen and inspire you to stay focused on those standards. What is the benefit of creating a standard life or having a standard life? Number one of it is to become real. We become an authentic person. Once you step into authentic personality, your profile will go up. When you copy, it's good to copy at some point, but you need to come back into your authentic life, setting your own agenda, setting your own standard. It will help you. My business is moving on gradually now because I realized that I had identity crisis. Do you want to build this company? Do you want to be like this? Do you want to be like this? Until one day I asked myself a question and I set up a standard and I've seen a transformation in my business. So you become real, you become authentic person. Number two, you become an attractor of other people. Because why? When they know you're a person of standard, they trust you. I recall a gentleman that had been looking for some years now, and he came looking for me. Why? He said he has watched me establish certain standard and have been consistent. I recall when I went to a particular organization and I said something, and the man said, "Oh, Patrick, you are not this standard now. Why are you going low?" They had to remind you why. They are watching you. The world is watching you. They will respect you. So you become attractor. You attract what you have become. Number three, it unleashes your potential. It becomes you unearth your being because those standards forces you, inspire you to be more of you, to develop more of you. So your potential is no longer, hidden. You want to express them. As you want to express them, you realize that because you're authentic, now you have character. Now you begin to flow naturally. Number four, it brings you, it gives you a amount of control of your mind. You're a person, you stand up for yourself. I didn't used to stand up for myself. Why? Because I was controlled by a lot of influence. What would my father say? What would society say? What would church say? No. And this is one of the things that kill us today. What would people say? I got into a relationship I have no business to go into because even when I got to find out I can't sustain that, I say, what will people say? What will people say means you don't have a standard. Whether they want to laugh you, let them laugh at you. Whether they want to disconnect with you, let them disconnect with you. But if you stay an authentic personality, you attract people because you are living your life. You are not getting a life. It gives you, it powers your mind. And I'm so glad, I'm totally so glad that I have transformed in these 3 years. It gives you an identity. Let me tell you, when we talk about standard means standard, a person of standard. It's called the reference man, the reference woman. Why? There's an order, there's a pattern, there's an established order, because you can't take less. And that's why you see people who are doing well in business, go and check. They are people of standard. Why is it that we have certain personality that we are so glued to? Why? If you check, because they have standard, they have consistently moved from one point to another. Because why? They keep measuring themselves and they keep setting up the standard. So it's important that we get to know that a person of standard is a person of standout. A person of standout is a person that can be referenced. A person that can be referenced is a person that can grow. A person of standard is a person that can expand. A person of that can live anywhere in the world and become everything God has destined you to do. So I'm calling you to look at the standard you're operating. If it is not giving you the result, it is time for you to redefine the standard and the challenge the status quo. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patrick Uduma. Interesting insight you shared there, personal, spiritual. While you were speaking, you mentioned identity, and I think that's one of the challenges that people face every day. When you leave your house, the world is asking you, are you sure you have a standard? You said something, shared an experience about some person you went to meet, and you said something. The person said, no, this is not you, because you had shown them that you have set a certain standard. I think that's where a lot of people struggle. They're not sure. Is that something that makes people unsure about their standards? Or that makes them struggle with,
I
what's
think
the
number
English
one
word you
is
said?
looking for external
Oh, okay.
I think number one, is when people are looking for external validation. When people are looking for pleasure or to be accepted. My friend, we need to accept ourselves. No matter how you are good, you are perfect. And one of the ways, check out the days that you were doing that. You were unstable. They couldn't trust you. You couldn't get any honor. But people just say, that one is OYS member. Oh, he can fall for anything. Have you heard that a cliche? That lady, she can fall for anything. But say no. You own yourself. You love yourself. Nobody can validate you like you validate yourself. Nobody can appreciate you like you appreciate yourself. Nobody really can inspire you like you can inspire yourself. So this identity crisis is based on the fact that we do not have our own established standard that we operate. And once you change, you attract things. Today, really, I'm sitting in. One gentleman called me from Abuja this week and asked me some certain questions and all that, and I said, well, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can do this, I can do this. He said, I'm saying I am giving you opportunity on this. I said, sorry, sir, I can't do this, and I declined. I was giving an offer to sit with the commissioner of justice in one state, and I set a standard. I said, no, I can't do that bidding. And somebody is wondering, are you okay? I said, please, this standard, my standard cannot connect me to this standard because it will show me downward, not upward. It might look like it's upward, but it's not upward because it will pull you down. Because you know why? If you connect to a standard that is not, they do not have the energy to support, what happened that it will collapse you. And that's why it looks like as it's pleasurable, it looks like as if it's acceptable, it looks like as if it's going to be more rewarding, but beneath it, there's a standard that is pulling you down, not upward.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so if you have questions, we'll welcome them now. Do well to put it in the chat section, and we'll take your questions. I also wanted to ask Patrick. I know some people might think that you need to aspire to be something great or someone um, of influence before you start to set a standard for yourself. Should that be the case? Did you hear me?
Say that again.
I said for some people
No,
they
no, I
think
couldn't
that
hear that question.
some people think
I
that you
didn't hear
must be
that question.
aspiring for an
Yeah.
office or you must be aspiring to be a person of influence before you set a standard for yourself. Should that be the case? You didn't hear me?
I told them in standard that greatness is not a status. Greatness is not an attainment. Greatness is doing the great things in an uncommon place. So the cumulative effect of greatness is the day-to-day effort to become great. So it's the same way. You don't have to aspire to be a leader to have a standard. You don't have to start to be a politician to have a standard. You don't have to be a pastor to be a standard. You don't even have to be a housewife to have a standard. You need to have standard for yourself in order to connect to a higher ground.
Okay.
The attraction of your appointment to a higher ground is because you have standard. Whether it's the standard of education, what is the standard of morality, what is the standard of whatever standard it is, standard takes you to a higher dimension. So if you are looking for status, the status will kill you first before you create a standard.
All right. All right. All right. So do we have questions? Do we have questions? Is it time to take the questions? Just drop them in the chat section and we'll read them. Patrick is here to answer your questions. You need clarity in one of the things he's talked about. This is the time to send your questions. The event is StandOut, the virtual edition for November, and we'd like to thank everyone who's logged on to listen to the show. It's about setting standards, and Patrick is saying that you must set a standard for yourself wherever you are, because if you do not, then there'll be a lot of contradictions that will just mess you up, in the future or maybe where you are right now. So if you have questions, I can't see any now. Um, let's see. Any questions coming in? Let's take the questions. Okay, they're none. Okay. So I know there was a book for the month. Let's get to that. We have the book for the month for October, The Power of Focus. This is November, and we're looking at Code of the Extraordinary Mind by Vishen Lakhiani. Okay, Lakiani. Okay, Code of the Extraordinary Mind by Vishen Lakiani. I haven't seen the book, so I cannot talk about it. Grace is here. Hello, Grace.
Yeah, good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
I'm
All right,
here.
so let's hear
Can you hear me?
the bit about the book. Yeah.
Okay,
So
are
tell
we
us a
looking
bit
at the
about the
power of
book for the
focus now
month.
or
Yeah.
okay? The book for the month, the one on the code of the extraordinary mind, contains 10 unconventional laws to redefine your life and succeed at your own terms. Okay, because sometimes we want to find answers outside us, but when you find the answers from deep within you, that's when you are able to commit to your purpose and commit to whatever you have aligned for yourself as a term for success. Good evening, Mr. Patrick. Thank you for the honor to
Good evening,
be here.
Grace.
So the code of the
Thank you.
yeah, the code of the code of the extraordinary mind is just a reminder. That's the one for November, this particular month we are in. It's just a book that would help us redefine our terms for life and success. Okay, a lot of us are encumbered with a lot of activities that doesn't align with our purpose and our life focus. So it's like taking off from the last month, from the book of from October, which is The Power of Focus by Jack Canfield. It's an amazing read. It's an amazing read. I shouldn't say so much about it. I think I should talk about the previous, the book for last month, right? Can I go into the book for last month?
Oh yes, you can. Are
Auntie
you
Eno?
done with the one for November?
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes,
you
I
can.
just did a brief introduction. Yes.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I can go ahead with the power of focus. The power of focus is the book written by Jack Canfield. We know who Jack Canfield is. Jack Canfield is the author of Chicken Soup for the Soul. If you've ever read any Chicken Soup for the Soul series, he had Chicken Soup for the kids, so he had Chicken Soup for the teenager, Chicken Soup for the moms, Chicken Soup for fathers. A lot of them, they are absolutely amazing books. And sometimes people look at those books and they are like, chicken soup, what do I expect from chicken soup? There are stories, different stories and collection from people telling their stories as per the title indicated in each of the series. So in the power of focus, I think for me particularly, I love the power of focus because normally it didn't just talk about focus as per focusing on something, just trying to explain what focus is. But Jackafi tried to explain 8 areas of our life where we need to pay attention to and focus on. And the first one was the first, each of them, he called them focus strategy. So the first focus strategy had to deal with our habits, the habits we put on daily. So you see, a lot of the things we become in life is not just dependent on if daily we desire that we want to do this. Someone may want to actually make a lot of money, but because they have poor financial skills or poor financial habits, that habit limits them from becoming rich. So sometimes we don't pay attention to our habits, but the book tried to call our attention to the fact that if you want to become successful, you have to focus on your habits. You have to pay attention to your habits. You have to decide these are the habits that are not helping me become an organized person and I need to do away with it. These are the habits that I need to imbibe. We even talked about answering calls and paying attention to our work setting. Then the focus strategy 2 talks about building on your strengths, not on your weaknesses. A lot of times people want to focus on their weakness. I'm not a good person. In fact, people just try to downplay on their strength. That's the truth. When you meet a lot of persons, what they want to talk about is how short they are, how not well, they don't have a college degree, how they've not worked for anyone. So they want to downplay on their strength. But when you look at these people, there are some strength that they actually have. In as much as someone says they are short, most times, okay, the person who is short, what other skills do they have? You discover that most times these people who focus more on their weakness have a lot of strength that they've not sold. You know how to smile a lot. You could serve very well in the protocol department. There are a lot of professional ushering setting that allows people to get paid for just smiling and welcoming people to occasion. You could be a front desk person. And there are a lot of things people don't pay for downplaying our strength. It also has to do with a lot of the way we have grown up, self-esteem issue while growing up. Some persons, their parents kept hammering on um, them not being good for nothing and all that. Because of that, their focus shifted from their strength to their weakness. Then he talked about focus strategy 3. Do you see the big picture? He talks about developing the mindset to see the big picture. Where am I going to? Okay, in as much as I'm taking daily step, where this daily step that I'm taking, where should it land me? Like for some of us, we already know what we want to be in 20 years time, right? And the book actually provides a format for us to understand and gain clarity, life purpose, life mission. The Jackafi took time to explain how you can draw your life mission, your life goals, get clarity so that daily you are working towards the bigger vision. You know, just like Jesus Christ already knew that he was going to die for mankind. So everything Jesus preached was based on helping mankind come back to God, becoming a bridge between us and God. So each time he was preaching, it was about connecting man back to God. That was the bigger picture. So you saw him talk with the sinners with with a particular goal. So it's not whatever I'm doing now, I am not strategic because I have a clearer picture, I have a broader picture, I understand my life purpose, and I understand my goal. We should understand that understanding a major goal or having a clear life vision and purpose helps us not to major on the minor. Helps us not to major on the minor, because sometimes we want to major on the minor. A lot of people try to do things that are not important per time. Then we have the focus strategy 4, overcoming setback. There's no one in life that hasn't gone through setback. Okay, so if you want to go ahead in life, your focus should not be on the setback, lamenting on your failures, lamenting on things that didn't work out, but you should now focus on how to overcome those setbacks, because the reason why we are humans, the reason why God created us as we are is because if you look at us, we have potential for comeback section. We have potential to come back no matter the kind of failure we have experienced. So focus on problem solving instead of focusing on your problems. If you have a problem, how do I get away from the problem? So don't go lamenting and you're there soliloquizing about the problem. Then the focus strategy 5, there are 8 of them, talks about building excellent relationship. All the strategy that Jack Canfield tries to point out are things that can help us excel in life. So one of the things we know that can help us excel in life is having great relationship, building great relationship. I love the strategy 5 because he gave steps on how to get connected to a mentor, someone that you are looking up to. He even made a list of, okay, if you meet someone that you have been looking up to, the questions you can ask to connect you to such a person. Because we all need mentorship, we all need great relationship, we all need great people around our life. And he talked about the fact that things you should do to give back to relationships that are feeding you. Because a lot of us are takers. We just want to take and take and take. Focus strategy 6 talks about confidence factor. Nobody goes anywhere without confidence. Someone can walk in here and they are not properly dressed for a meeting, but because of how they presented themselves and how they are able to articulate, give their pitch and all that, they can just win the session over. Then he talked about focus strategy 7, which is about asking. Some of us don't know how to ask for help. And in that focus, you should know that wherever you're going to get to in life, you must learn to ask. There's nothing you will do in this life that you will do alone and succeed. The acronym for team says that together everyone achieves more. So sometimes you are lacking in one area of your life. You should learn to ask for help. You should learn to delegate. You should learn to just learn to collaborate with others. Then focus strategy 8 talks about persistence, learning to be persistent. And no one succeeds without being persistent at their work or whatever they are doing. Repetition is what makes people to become perfect. When you repeat an exercise for a long time, you become perfect at it. And that's what consistency helps us build. Proficiency makes us become experts, makes us become professionals, makes us become skilled at whatever we're doing. Then the last one talks about, that's the focus strategy 9, talks about take decisive action. Whatever steps, whatever you've learned from the book, whatever thing you know that can make you become successful in life, take decisive action. Because a lot of times we just end at head knowledge, but we should learn to move from head knowledge and understand that we can take steps to like implement whatever we have learned. Okay, I learned from this book that I have poor communication skills. So what to become proficient at communication? Okay, I learned that I think I need to align my vision and my mission statement. So how do I do that? So that's about the power of focus. The power of focus is a book that just helps you identify the key areas of life that you should focus on that will help you gain momentum and excel in life. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Grace, for that expose. If you haven't read the book, then you have to get back to it. I like the part where you said you found that there was something that you needed to work on. It's great that we're able to read and see our shortcomings and even our strengths in written materials. Thank you very much, Grace, for your time. We have
Yeah.
questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay,
Mr. Patrick,
next month.
welcome
The
back.
hard copies are also available for anyone
Yeah.
who needs them. And we
Thank
encourage
you.
everyone in StandOut
Thank
to
you,
read.
Enoh.
Can you see
And
the
thank you,
question?
Grace, for the good work. You did justice to that book review. Yeah, the guy said, how can one redefine his standard of oppression in reality? One of the one of the ways you know you're not living your life is when you lie to yourself. When you lie, when you deny yourself, when you lie, it means that you need to ask yourself what is forcing you to lie. So you need to be able to pay attention and define why are you lying. I used to lie a lot because because I felt that I wasn't measuring up, and you lie. What are you lying for? Lying means you're denying there's a responsibility you're not taking care of. So you need to sit down, ask yourself deep question. Why am I lying? Are you looking for relevance? Are you looking for acceptance? Are you looking for, they must be define your need. And once you define your need, how do you tackle your need? You can either, like we said, read more, you can get a mentor, discuss it into two. And part of what I did was that I got a mentor. And the guy practically made me cry in his office. And the moment I cried, that was the beginning. I started asking basic questions. And I could say, hey, I'm better off than lying. And I set a standard. Enough of this external acceptance. Work on your weakness. Focus on your strength. Put observatory senses around you to observe. It may not work the first week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Continue. Or become yourself. You own yourself. That's becoming an authentic person. Or maybe in terms of your finance, you don't know how to save money. And meanwhile, you want to save money. And each time you talk about saving money, you talk about consumption. You talk about sweetness rather than investment. You know, ask yourself, what is driving this appetite? What is driving this appetite? Sometimes you look at somebody who is quite big. So you now see appetite means the more I have appetite, the tendency to get big. So you now say, no, I want to be this. It talks about your well. I mean, I was eating anyhow, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. No, but you need to take it. I need to take hold of my system. I recall that when I was living with my cousin, we said we were shisha drinkers. So we're not drinking gin, we're drinking red wine. And it was becoming a habit. And it was expensive to maintain. You need to ask yourself, I calculated the number of wine that we got. Do you know that? And I showed what we are consuming. What if we have opened an electrical shop? Where would have been? But look at what we have consumed. Who cares about that consumption? How has it added up to you? So you need to look at yourself. Tell yourself the truth. Look at yourself in your mirror and say, "Lay, you're not doing well in this place," and take the responsibility to find out how you can improve on that. And I'm telling you, I'm so grateful about standard. It looks like as if God designed standard for me because maybe I was lost completely. But hey, today I'm questioning things in my heart, and I see that I have a system of redefining that structure, and I'm getting better, especially with time as well too. Each time they invite us anyway, we used to go there, but now we go 10 minutes before the time. You are there before them because it gives you opportunity to relax. In case you have a problem, you can fix it before the time. So it's important that you look at yourself and ask yourself a question and seek for help where you think is necessary. And that's why this mentorship platform is created so that you can come in and we can walk that through together. Is there that DK said, does your environment have a role to play when you want to set a standard? In fact, your environment helps you much more. This one says environment condition, you know. Let me give you instance. I came to where I'm living. It was dirty. And nobody wanted to clean the place. I took upon myself, I said, hey, I'm going to clean this street. And I'm cleaning the street. But yet, I went in, a very high officer, a ranking officer, came the other day, removed the flower we planted, all the plants, and over there, I didn't budge. I didn't talk about it. Why? Because I have created a standard. Whether they like it or don't like it, I couldn't conform to that standard. Environment will help you to set up a standard, because when you allow environment to condition you, you are not living your life. Your life is expressed by the standard you have created in that environment. For instance, let's say you work in the public sector where everybody has to collect egunje to do something. You now tell yourself, hey, if I'm going to die, let me die. I will not collect egunje. They may backlash you. I worked in an organization where there was no standard really. They can sign a check and ask you to go to the bank. And when they asked me, I said, what is it for? He said, no, that's how we do it in this company. I said, sorry, there's no account. I can't account for this money. You know what? They suffered me. They'll put my bills. Sure, you want to do righteous here. But hey, when I look back today and look at those people and where they are today and where I am, you find out that because I had a standard, it pushes me to a higher ground. So it's important that you have to set your standard in an environment, not the environment setting the standard.
Okay, do we have another question?
I can continue to give you instances what I've done. I mean, we work in an organization where they don't remit their pension. Everybody, they don't remit their pension. They say this is government money. And I decided to say, okay, well, I don't care. I want to keep paying. And we're paying, remitting. And somebody called me and said, what are you proving? They blacklist me among the committee of, let's say, oh, come on. Because at the end of the day, if we want to go to jail, it's you that will go to jail. And at that point, all that environment, they will just mess you up and you will never be able to live your life. Chinonso is saying, what should I do when my standard is affecting my relationship between me and my family? Your standard must be able to create an interface, not against. That's why the power of negotiation is very key. Let me explain to you. When I got born again, my father rejected me because I was born again. And I mean, 6 months down the line, I was the toast of the whole house. They couldn't do anything without consulting me because they see that my standard was for their own good and not my own good. Your standard must have interface. What am I saying? It's not compromise. You know, it's not like when we have a relationship with people, maybe like a boy and girl relationship. You say you must work in a certain place before I accept you. That's not standard. Standard is responsibility. Standard is responsibility. It is not taking. It's responsibility. And this is something I need to balance here. A lot of ladies have such high standard. You don't get standard, you create standard. You don't get standard, you create it. All that high thing that you're expecting is responsibility to create, not to take. There is no standard man. We create a standard man. You say, oh, he's made. If you go and check that guy that is made, there is somebody responsible for that make. If you look at me now, you say, Patrick is over there. There are people taking time to make sure I look well. So if I appear, don't think that I just appear like a great guy. No, somebody's working somewhere. for me, somebody say, "Oh, Patrick is everywhere." No, this person that's anchoring this gave me the mic, silently pushed me with her presence, took me to radio. Why? Because she saw a standard. So that relationship must have a human interface. Because why? You are not supposed to destroy. You're not supposed to be winning, be in win and lose. No, it's a win-win thing. So any standard that repel people, go and check. It is not a good standard because your standard supposed to have interface with other people.
All right. Thank you very much. We won't be taking any further
I don't know if
questions.
anybody have another question.
We will not be taking any further questions. We'll run out of time, and we have to keep to the standard
You
of
said?
time. 60. We agreed for
Oh,
60
thank you
minutes.
very much, for what you've done.
Okay. Um, I'm supposed to take an announcement, but I can't see it right now.
What did you say?
I'm supposed to take an announcement, but I can't see it right now. Someone needs to help me, please. I'm supposed to take an announcement right now as we wrap it up. But what is the next show going to look like, Patrick? Let's just have something from you. Our next event for
Yeah, I
December.
think that we're planning to make sure that we have a get together for December, a get together, an evening get together where we will sit out and have an interaction, questions, and so that we can also have a small party. And we're going to communicate to everyone about the party. We're looking at the venue and how we're going to meet.
Okay, okay, okay. All right. So we're on socials. So I stand out on Instagram, on Twitter, and I believe on Facebook. So I stand out. Just search for it. You see the logo, and you can follow us and get updates on what's going to happen on Standout. But that's a wrap this evening. Thanks to everyone. If you have unanswered questions, I'm sure you can send it via DM on Twitter or on Instagram and maybe on Facebook as well. And I'm sure that we'll respond from this side. So it's been a great evening. I hope someone has learned something they're going to use. It's not enough to sit in, it's not enough to be here and not, commit, to raising the standard and being a person of standard, up to a point that people will come to you and look up to you as a reference like we do our mentor and the convener of StandOut, Patrick Uduma. Thank you, Patrick, for sharing with us this evening, and thanks to the team on the other side. It's been an amazing evening. My name is Enoh Ogbevire. Final words from you, Patrick.
Yeah, thank you. So, please, ladies and gentlemen, my desire is that we keep standing out. My desire is that we keep challenging our status quo. My desire is that we keep growing in our mental capacity. Well, my desire is that we will not be where we have always been, complaining and whining, but taking responsibility and to live in goodness. Thank you very much, everybody. Like I said, I'm always open for any question on phone, on my hand, everywhere. Please, I'm here to help. I'm here to mentor. I'm here to share my experience. Thank you, for your time, and God bless you all.
Bless you too. Good night and have a great what's left of November. See you in December.